In this video, we're going to look at how to multiply and divide signed numbers. So first, we're going to look at some symbols and definitions. Recall when we talked about the four operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And this symbol is used to represent subtraction. For example, 7 minus 3, that means we take 3 away from 7 till we get 4. But this minus sign, if we just put it in front of number, for example, minus 2, it means the opposite of 2. So as you can see on the number line here, 0 is right here. To the right, we have all the positive numbers, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And to the left side, we have the negative numbers, -1, -2, and so on. And when we look at 2 and -2, and they are opposite of each other with respect to 0. So as you can see, it's like we are flipping 2 to the opposite side, and we get -2. Similarly, and we can flip -2 to the opposite side of 2. To the opposite side, we will get 2. So that's what we see here. First of all, the -2 is the opposite of 2. Again, it's from the number line, so you can see here and here. So it's kind of like flipping 2 to -2. But if we flip -2, we will go back to 2. So that means the opposite of -2 is +2, or just 2. The plus sign in front of +2 is always usually omitted. So this third sentence right here, the opposite. And the opposite, we can also use a minus sign to represent it. And so we can put a minus sign. So this whole thing, I can replace it with a minus sign and just say the opposite. This minus sign represents the opposite. So the opposite of -2 is +2. So if I rewrite it, so this is what we have. So as you can see here, there's a very important property right here. If we have a minus in front of another minus, and we turn that to a plus, and the plus is omitted. So if I put it back here, you can see two minuses. A minus sign immediately in front of another minus sign, it would turn that into a positive. Again, think of this minus sign as opposite. So this is literally opposite of -2 gives us +2. We do want to distinguish this from the addition. So previously, when we talked about how to add sign numbers, so if we have -3, and then we have plus -2, and we still end up with a negative number because $3 debt plus $2 debt, together we have $5 debt. So the debt is represented by a minus sign. And notice when we add two negatives, we still get a negative. But if we have a minus, and notice these two minus signs, one is right in front of the other, but these two minus signs, they're not right. This one is not right in front of the other minus sign. So there's a number right behind it, and there's a plus sign here. And so these two minus will not be turned into a plus. So with that in mind, we can look at these rules right here. And so for example, we have positive times positive is still positive. So if we have used parentheses, there's nothing between them, that means multiplication. And so positive times positive is still positive, and negative times negative is also positive. So again, this negative here, first a negative sign, we can think of it as opposite. And the second minus sign, we can think of it as a negative number. So, or a debt, we can think of it as a debt. So if we take opposite of debt, it's going to become a credit. And so again, that's why two negatives may be are going to be a positive. And so that's when we multiply two positive, we get a positive, and two negative, we still get a positive. And this also works for division, the same rule. And for what if one of them is positive, the other is negative? In this case, we always end up with negative. And if we think about it, then this minus sign means debt. And if the number in front of it is positive, you can think of it as like, let's say we have positive 2. That means we're doubling the debt, we still get debt. So the answer will still be negative. And but if you have credit, and this minus means opposite, and when we do opposite of credit, it's going to give us debt. So that's why when we multiply one positive and one negative, or one negative and one positive, we always end up with negative. Okay, so now we can look at these examples here using the rules. And again, for multiplication division, they follow the same rules. And what we need to determine is the sign. And for the numbers, we will follow the operation, whether it's multiplication, then we do multiplication. If it's division, then we do division. So when we get multiplication or division question, first thing we want to do is to determine the sign. So following these rules here, positive times positive is going to give me positive. Positive times negative will give me negative. Again, if you forget the rule and think of this as, okay, this negative sign means it's debt. Positive 6 means 6 times the debt. So if your debt is increased 6 times, you're gonna get larger debt. So the answer will still be debt. That's why it's still minus here. And negative times positive by the rule, negative times positive is negative. Again, if you forget the rule, think of this positive 2 as credit and this as opposite. So we do opposite of credit, we're gonna get debt. So the answer is negative. And finally, two negatives make a positive by the rule here. Again, if you forget, think of the first minus sign as opposite and the second as debt. So it's opposite of debt gives us credit. So after we determine the sign, and since the operations are given, we don't have any symbol again. If there's nothing, that's multiplication. So we're going to multiply 6 and 2 to get 12, 6 and 2, 12, 6 and 2, get 12, 6 and 2 to get 12. So the important thing when we multiply sign numbers is to determine the sign. So for division, because we follow the same rule, 2 positive will still be positive, and we divide 6 by 2, that gives us 3. Now 1 positive, 1 negative, it's going to give us negative, so we're going to get 6 divided by 2, it's still 3. Negative divided by positive, it's negative. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative divided by negative gives us positive, and 6 divided by 2 is still 3. If you ever forget the rule, you can always use credit and debt to help you, and also opposite. So here we have $6 credit divided by 2. So if we cut our credit in half, of course, we still get credit, $3 credit. And but if we cut our credit in half, but also there's a minus sign, so this minus sign means opposite. So we're going to turn the credit to the opposite. So we cut the debt in half, but this minus sign is going to turn, that means opposite. So it's going to turn the credit to the debt, $3 debt. And if we have $6 debt and divide by 2, we cut the debt in half, so we get $3 debt. But again, it's still going to be debt, so that's why it's still negative. And then if we have debt and cut in half, and also the minus sign is going to change the debt to the opposite of debt, which becomes a credit. Easily put, when we do multiplication or division, two negatives will become a positive. And if you have one positive, one negative, the answer is always negative.